we are not trustful of what the courts or when the courts will act. The National Delegates Conference that sat decided that all party members should be, the grassroots structures should be consulted on how the party moves forward. Because the term of office of leaders expired, electing other leaders became contentious. As I have said, some people hijacked power and tried to elect in unacceptable ways. So that is why we are moving around the whole country for the party members to decide how we deal with those who acted the way I have said and are now holding our party headquarters of Najana Nkumbi hostage from the party members.
Okay, those are words coming in from Dr. Besigye, and we'll be transiting to interact with our listeners, and as we'll be winding up, we'll give opportunity to the chairperson, Arua City, to also give a narration of what we have been sharing with Dr. in the local language, that is Lubara. But first, let's get to interact with our listener who is tuned to Radio Pacis on this particular topic of transition, but also the issues happening in FDC. The studio lines are open. You can call us on 0776 255 086 or 0755.
Wouldn't it be better for the callers to come in at the end? Maybe?
Okay. Yes. Ronald, if you can just summarize in, let me say, less than 5 minutes. Yes. Let's summarize that and then we engage the callers.
Well, thank you so much, Noel. I still remain Ronald Adomati. I've been the former flag bearer for Parliamentary Central. This time, Madomu Zolio Zalubara Tisi. Mabapi Lugara, Amadu Western Arua, I'm President, retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, Adiedro Mabe, Arua. Amu Amarua, Ojo Opiro, Pati Alia Andrew, FDC Alia Wazobi, Aleba Mani, Indi Dulare, Banga Opiri Ufe, Asienzusi, Obidre and Velen, Goniarinze. I know no Baduariki, Alarinze Rozo, Opiri Badufe, Obidre and Velen Goniari, Adesukusadisi, Opiamana Azo Aladi. Ilindo kokolaria baada yo ususi kwa yo ikaka idianife bakisasia ando midwani ndre bakia orisi sadisi amosu utsoko alatre ata mane azutu aludi o ura mane ori ozukanko o oli amane azu alaba no environment sadisi ura mane azu aladi oli alia dia amokeko so opodi amosu kwa kole adosi agbirila du Teso amadu sadisirisi andra droria amadu dia ba envele mundo mukendra amadu tsediani mundo dia muke amadu tsedia body mundo dia ziki amane gatata amaniki ya amadu tse ozoazi amani banonve ayaru kanko akirisirisi agbirila rori ta obani ayumungu ni feniri ndreki dinde inyo gowa iyo tsofole iyo tsani azakomako muke kutsikatiri yusundo yani yemuzo dia zakwani ani midon resadisi bo pidrediki otoke do pokoko bari ke dosasi opo mundo ni fe ni di ayo baki opako fezo so ili mundo ni amani opako fezo ni amamuzo amaditsezori alidogo goli kaliziribo eli kazeziri alia feki amani ditseza amadrie dualarore idi ogogoli kaliziri vutia dandra li kalieze dunirisi didoduko Dr. Besigye ni basali si amalere aziki ma kirimudria ma menen zaidene ditseza amadrisa disi Uganda adi di abi iyo kwa ko suti sadisi amata sienzo alera motsodo ozazingako agbirlarore ditseza di ongola tsado sadisi wa ayasi kanko afaze amane onve tutuorulisi mi do sukoika mi okwayo eka mi ditsando ani mi anendre ba pi okwa ko sudoro angere utoke do zaze oko ikedo sasi uto atake do ni urisi so uto de alia dia amadosa se a suru amani Uganda de alia okwa kwa alia amako doyo amatodo zaze ngako agberi aro ba do kwa yo amadrusu be ka ba do moditiani ndo so ani uto de alia Adrian Zekini Museveni who was within together abia direct president Museveni bi alo opirialia ani president Museveni ni adrezo alo realia indra ozori ki imifisi ino ozori ki ndazo imifisi ino muzori ki adazu aji iruti ozondi angere so afadi fiandro ino kwako mini ben reki ni banze angazu likalioro misi amini likalioro mi alia dia opirialia si banze ira so ini be afuzu adi gizu amabedi so ani oposa de si bano tsozo opiro zazuri angazo badi driele amuzo amadro opa ko liale adiki ikinga le ba yondo atiri ba uso eno zori azakozu so idinga adri amani gata duzu zori azakozu so ba barmine nresa de sirikinde lioro lonyi ba bardrio ba lonyi beri nambala kindela gamete de alia iki yoko de ayo sa sende de milu disu ndre ba weredria so ani afata amani le ayo diki potso de aka ayoko so afandra Mungu ne ofa amani to ayo kan ku Uganda ani surudi ani bana to ayo nzori kipa bazuri ba dusasi ba zakengwa ba ni drie ba duki afari yaniro iki ani sende osu gamete de alia de adi so ma ba pilo bara ozo de iki leta musu za ondala za kuma kozo so asienzu dosasi yo amoto do asienzu siko amango kwa ko su zori sangire so driteza amari diare alia kini driteza dialia ba mati ubadopia yotasi tedria ti dazalia diki azila madri ayota sipiko tie diki eketi tesali so toke do adre okwo be di azo za kozu kwa do sukalaruri okwo da ki gbadu do ki ba lu do iniro ebido anu zori ki azako so mi din ready amadri yasasi ozora sake de ane waro andro agadia government parliament bi budget approve budget di ogogo bilioni toro arofazibe budget bani approve zubo Museveni kini budget di ine ambamba budget di alia president Museveni biedra na ikoseko so abido ikini bama wa government di arudo gawalu budget di ra amu budget ya wa company zibo mve roko idi azirkebe awado bari ni afa percentage di ani mi don resalisi uzola tsado mana waro idri dudusi Museveni family ya dusi ni budget ili alwaria ipiniza basende bane izari ogogo bilioni toro aro ifiniri te Dr. Besigye ne musu ndre amadrero rware keni budget ya madrero city ni adusi rutsora dro karibu milioni kalina draziadia so afande ili amana okoro midwani ndre services ya maduta dre sukulu pieni geri pieni arozo pieni re atake domukeko so ma bapilo gbara ozodi ki le bandre kimifi okasi baba ne ozodi ki pamoke amadri amadzezanga ne adre ngoni yare ata amata ba NRA mwadi ba mine ndre NRA ma kidre diti ba FDC ni diti ya dini so mi ursu ndre ozodi kidria ili amana kwa kofe and then mamu dolo sundre ba ziditi ezitazi kini idini Dr. Besigye ni kini iki isakale tsoze pini poti zere beringwa dini so afaro la ni feriare kini le angazi tuolo so mosu donre wakini amadi parliament Uganda ba ala azila kiti ba di muke the full head of state be that is the president Museveni be sende aduzu de podi ba di muke la koro ba di muke the full Dr. Besigye be kini doctor ni idrita asienzu suti tizo gamete di bata bazutuolo tada muke adosoko eli idro do mumu uzo atake ine waro ini drele imu angone ari kutika tiribe titi gamete dibe atukio kwa dokoko ingatiti ani arima kwa bia foda andromene nzezo ozo afuke andro tretre mine ndre FDC eliadi ozo de afuke do berkati sende para pini nzezo muzo duzu president Museveni volersi so anima bapi le ozo diki anze de weriaro di amobikiti situolo andreke dozo de pa nemoke drele amomo angone ari
Yes, our studio lines are open. You can call us. We do have about 4 minutes to be in the studio because I have the news journal at 8. You can call us right now to speak to Doctor or ask a question to doctor and get the response. Radio Pacis. Yes, your name and where you're calling from. Good evening. Please step away from your radio handset so that we can pick you clearly. Yes. You're live on the radio. Your name and where you're calling from. Musema, your question or comment?
Musema from?
Yes. Yes.
You can't hear.
All right. Thank you so much for your. Please be brief to the point. All right. Thank you so much for that question. For the last caller who is going to call in, please let us not speak rhetoric. Let's go straight to the point and ask the questions because our time in the studio is virtually up. We do have the news journal. Radio Pacis. Sorry, you can call again on 0776 255 086. Good evening. Your name and where you're calling from. Yes, your question or comment. Imudulezi mizita. Okay. And for how will the FDC unite to actually handle the issues that they are fighting for if they are now separate parties as of now? That is his question. Doctor, I want to give you a chance to respond to these particular questions.
Well, I guess the Musema I had is the same Musema whom indeed I campaigned for here when he was contesting to be a member of parliament. And, you know, I get surprised quite often by the way these members or leaders of ours view things. First of all, what he said about a joint candidate. I quite didn't understand. But joint candidates have no legal basis in our constitution and in our electoral laws. Unlike Kenya, Kenya parties can come together, select a candidate, and select symbols which will be used by all candidates of the different political parties that are united. In our case, if we choose a joint candidate as an FDC candidate, he will run as an FDC candidate. And if the other parties who are supporting that candidate feel that they are unfair, that they are unfairly treated, because the presidential candidate captures a lot of attention and their symbols therefore undermines those other parties who are supporting him but who are running on different symbols. That has been the biggest source of undermining the possibility of having a joint candidate in the times that we have tried to have one. Now, he asks about why I didn't campaign in 2001. And it was the very reason actually that I talked to the National Council when all these people campaign for Amriat. But Amriat knows, and all of them knew, that these problems of the money came before the elections, and we discussed them before the elections, and we failed to agree before the elections, and I could not go to campaign for somebody who has been now with Museveni. It could not fit my conscience. I couldn't. Disadvantage other candidates who did not have anything to do with Museveni's money. And they would have been adversely affected if these matters had come to light. But even after the elections, we held many meetings to try and resolve that matter internally. You have done this. How do we resolve it so that we maintain the reason why FDC and frankly, you know, I have had Amliat talk about all kinds of things. In 2018, I called all the party leaders of FDC and told them to choose a candidate for 2021. 2018, we sat in a place called the Choto in Namugongo, where we had a whole day's meeting, me pleading with them to get a candidate for 2021. And I gave them the reasons why I would not be available to be a candidate in 2021. When it came to 2020, 2 years later, they had not made any step to get a candidate. They all came back to me to ask me to become a candidate in 2021. And I refused. So Amriat, we are the ones who last minute forced him to actually become a candidate. We had no candidate. FDC had no candidate, had not prepared. You cannot go into a presidential elections without preparations. Because first of all, it takes a lot of money, which you must have raised, and the candidates are the ones that raise money because people who support elections support a candidate. They want to know the candidate, and they want the candidate to know that they have contributed. Because they also think that if you win, they should also be known as having supported you. So there was no candidate, there was no money for the election. 2020. And that's so when we now said, okay, you Amriat, you become a candidate, that's when this whole process of saying, by the way, we needed to change our approach started. And I said, no, Only later on to understand that they went ahead to look for money from the other side. So I couldn't get myself to be a campaigner in such an election. Now let me be very clear. So, Musema was saying, am I a better leader? I don't seek to be a better leader than anybody. Not at all. In fact, me, I have never even come into politics like most of the people who come into politics to contest for office. I didn't join politics to contest for office. I was a medical doctor. I was working in a big hospital in Nairobi. I was earning a lot of money in Nairobi. I left my job and went to the bush to fight, not for a job. I only want a country that is run in which we all have equal power, equal opportunities, where we have an equal voice. That is what brings me into politics, not a job. So I don't care for anybody to be, I'm not in a competition with anybody. I am simply struggling for a country that works for all of us, in which all these young people, including these young Musemas, can have jobs, can have business, can have education that is decent for everybody, that their children. So it's some kind of an irritant to say, I'm in competition with any of all these people. I'm not competing with anybody to be a better leader. No.
Okay.
I am only joining with all those who want to join hands so that we can have a better country. Now, the last question I think was on unity. Unity you can only unite over a purpose. If you want to fight, for example, you want to fight corruption, you cannot unite with the corrupt. So what you want to do is what determines whom you unite with. And that's why there is what is called freedom of association. So we set up FDC, we united around FDC. I didn't know anybody who is in FDC today until we formed FDC and united to change, to cause change that empowers all Uganda. Democratic change means everybody having an equal voice. That's what unites us. So if we are fighting those who have taken away our voice, and you want to work with them, how do we unite? You want to work with those who have taken away our voice, we want to fight them. We are on different purposes. But if we, and I hope to get an opportunity to talk about how we shall get out of all this confusion. Because FDC, even when it was undivided, it could not on its own remove the military rule that we have now. So we must look at the solutions separate from what is happening in FDC. As I pointed out, what is happening in FDC is not just in FDC. I hope Mr. Musema knows that DP has same problems, UPC has same problems, NUP, which started only, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, has the same problems. So the problem that is the infection affecting our parties is the same. It is Mr. Museveni and his money. And I have told you how that becomes attractive for parties, because party members don't have money. Candidates don't have money. The only person who has money is that one who takes it from us by force, Mr. Museveni. So that's why he is buying out politicians. And that's what we must find a solution for if we are going to return this country into the hands of Ugandans.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us and sharing these particular insights. it's clear that there are significant challenges that, for instance, the FDC party is experiencing right now, and also other parties are experiencing, and but also there are opportunities that exist for growth and unity within these particular parties, even within FDC. So we definitely appreciate your time and wish you, Doctor, all the best as you continue with your tour and your consultations on these particular
I have just heard, I didn't know, that Musema, who asked the question, is one of those who was, I campaigned here in Arua for him. Now I understand he's NRM.
He's looking for the job.
So he's one of those, I think, who surrendered even before.
Yes, Doctor, I must say that it has been a wonderful engagement, and I'm profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have you in the studio to speak to all the listeners of Radio Pacis, and we appreciate your time and hope you can come again. And
I thought the program was still going on. I didn't know it was.
Yes, we have the news journal coming up, and later on we'll have more other discussions. Yes.
No, I'm really very sorry. I maybe would have managed the time differently. Because I had been told it was from 7 to 9.
7 to 9, but we had
So, but now I understand we have to leave. So allow me, Noel, to really conclude by, first of all, thanking the people of Arua and the West Nile region, because we had the districts of Adjumani, Moyo, Yumbe, Obongi, Koboko, Terego, Maracha, Arua City, Arua District, Mario Kolo, Nebi Zombo, and Pakwach. All of them were here, and I would like to thank them for the great effort they made to send leaders all the way here to have the meeting we had today. And again, to emphasize that the problems we are talking about coming out of a family rule, one family ruling our wealth, ruling our decision making, ruling our everything, and ruining the lives of especially young people who cannot find jobs, who cannot get decent education, who have no future, no hope. The end of this must take the effort of all of us, and it will not happen just by waiting for an election of 2026 and throwing your piece of paper in a box and thinking that this will go away. We must unite and say enough is enough. So our moving around the country, which we are doing now, we are creating an infrastructure apart from the FDC quarrels which are there. The FDC quarrels are a smaller part of what we are engaged with. We are engaged with getting all Ugandans, regardless of their political parties, to unite, to organize, to inform everyone about the danger we live in as a country, so that in the very near future, we don't have to wait for anybody, for any election, to say enough is enough, we want our country back. And so you'll be hearing more about this in the very near future. The FDC matters, I believe, will be resolved one way or another, but this is not an FDC only problem. So let all Ugandans who are out there listening to me, please be on the alert, be ready to reclaim your country so that it can work equally for all of us. I thank you very much, and once again thank Radio Pacis. I regret that I didn't know that it was only 1 hour that we had. As I've said, I had a lot more to talk about, but I will find another time and come back to talk to you more. Radio Pacis is a wonderful radio that indeed receives all people and gives all opportunities. And so whenever I'm in Arua, I always have the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless Uganda.
All right, listeners, that's all we had time for in tonight's edition of the talk show, where we had retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye speaking about issues of transition and also the fracas that we have in FDC. We sincerely apologize for delaying the news journal. We will be resuming with the news journal after here. Do stay tuned to Radio Pacis. Up next, we'll have the news journal, and thereafter the